Hey everyone, today I am working on my Losi Tenacity TT Pro short course truck. I'm going to be installing a couple upgrades that really are just going to make it a little bit more bashable. To be completely honest, the truck doesn't need a whole lot right out of the box. It's built super tough, which I'll kind of go over some of the features and show a couple of the things that I kind of felt like were maybe some shortcomings. But overall, I am super happy with this truck, and let's see what we can come up with here. Alright, so here's the truck, and if you're familiar with the 10 platform, you'll see that this is based on that. A lot of stuff looks familiar. Steering, suspension, very similar. One of the things I really like that they did with this truck is that they put the aluminum threaded body shocks on here with aluminum caps, which is nice. They put the aluminum shock towers on it, front and rear, so that's a nice little feature. Biggest thing I noticed that's different from like the Troy Lee Designs truck that I had is that they put this brace going across the top. I guess this is more of a basher truck is how they market it, so they don't want you to tackle your chassis. But very, very similar. Really love this platform. It's a great truck. And I mentioned something that I consider kind of a shortcoming of this thing. And for most people, I don't know if I should say most, but for a lot of people, this really wouldn't make a difference. If you've never built a factory team kit or had a race, race built vehicle, you may not even notice this, but one of the things I noticed right away is this. That is a lot of play in the steering. One thing that's kind of annoying about it is a lot of that play comes from the actual servo. So this servo, I have run this thing literally one battery pack through it. So maybe about 20-25 minutes of runtime. And that servo already has tons of play in the output shaft. So I'm going to be changing that. And also a thing that I don't like is that none of the steering has ball bearings in it. It's got bushings. So I'm going to be changing that out too, because this drives me nuts. I don't like that. That shouldn't be. Otherwise, love the truck. Can't wait to start upgrading it. See how it turns out. All right, so here are the parts that are going on this truck. Now, what I did to find all of these was I looked at the SCTE 3.0 Team Kit manual to get all the part numbers, and I did compare all those part numbers before ordering them with the part numbers listed for the Tenacity TT Pro, and they were all different. Doesn't mean they're different parts necessarily. Like the bell cranks, for example, I have a feeling these may be the same exact parts that are on the truck, so worst case scenario is I have an extra set. But I just wanted to make sure I got ones that would fit the bearings that I bought, because I don't know what size bushings are in there. I didn't take the truck apart first. So I got those. This is just a steering rack that has ball bearings in it. Should help a lot right there. The bearings. Got the steering posts. Again, I'm not sure how different these are, but I do know that this one will absolutely accept those bearings. I don't know that the one that's in the Tenacity will. So I bought it just in case. And then to get rid of that slop in the servo itself, I got a Savox 1258 TG. Really, really tough servo. I've used them in 4 different vehicles, haven't broken one yet. It does drain a fair amount of power, so I got a glitch buster so that if this thing drains too much power, you don't temporarily lose connection to your receiver, because nobody wants that. And then aluminum steering horn. Because I do a fair amount of bashing, actually more bashing than racing, I got a couple basher upgrades. This is a mudguard set for the rear, so that's going to protect the rear axles and shock shafts from getting mud flung all over them. I got the rear skid plate just to help protect the chassis a little bit. And then I got an RPM front bumper. And what I like about this bumper is that it eliminates this brace right here, because what this does is when you hit something hard, this transfers a lot of the force into your diff housing, and it's a lot of work to replace that diff housing, so we don't want to break that. The RPM stuff is just made with a little bit more flexible plastic, so that absorbs it rather than transferring it into the chassis. So these are the things I'm about to install, and hopefully we end up with something better than this. Yeah, can't have that. Started off with taking the servo out. Super easy to get out on this thing. You just take off the 4 mounting screws and of course the servo horn screw. So that's just 5 screws to get the servo out. Next, I'm taking off the steering top plate and the chassis brace. Pretty easy, just 2 screws on the top for the top plate and then 2 screws on the bottom. And that's going to get your steering posts off. You do have to take off that chassis brace. Just a couple screws right on the top holding that on. Unplug the motor, get that stuff out of the way. So once you've got your top plate and your chassis brace out of the way, you have access to all your steering parts. You can see those bushings right there are some of the ones that we're going to replace. And there's just 2 bushings in each post, one on the top, one on the bottom. You can just pop those right out and put the ball bearings in place of them. You can start putting everything back together. I do recommend using thread lock on the steering posts because those are constantly moving. You don't want the screws to start backing out. And while it was apart, I threw that metal ball bearing steering rack on it. That plastic one with the bushings can go straight into the garbage. Just get everything tied back up here. Steering upgrades are done. Got a lot less play in the wheels. This I would consider normal, so I'm real happy with that. And the new steering servo, you can see, is real fast. Still got to adjust the end points a little bit, but should be good to go. So now I'm just going to do the basher upgrades and we will call it done. Alright, all done. So pretty happy with the steering upgrade. I did end up having some extra parts that I could have reused, so if you want to do this stuff to your truck, really all you need is the steering rack. Here's the Losi part number. That's got the ball bearings in it. And 2 sets of these bearings, and you could just pull your bell cranks off and your steering posts and reuse them with these bearings instead of your bushings, and that would definitely tighten things up a little bit. I do recommend getting rid of the stock Losi Spectrum servo. I'm going to take this one apart and try to figure out why it's got so much play in there. I don't know, maybe there's some bushings in here I can replace with bearings and actually use this in the future in something else. I don't know, we'll see. Hope you found this helpful. Thanks for watching.